have no idea what you're talking about.
Right,
But
I'm clear. The world comes to an end.
Oh, okay.
But one of the things I want to make sure is that if companies are going to, first of all, I really want to kind of break off and gain some greater understanding of alliances and partnerships and JVs or joint ventures, you know, and understanding that a joint venture means that we go into business together for some particular reason.
Right.
And we go in as equal partners or close to equal partners
Right.
for a reason that's
Right.
going to improve the customer's balance sheet.
Yep.
So meaning a cleaning company would maybe go in line with a maintenance company, which are very different. Maintenance meaning that you fix the light bulbs
Sure.
and everything else.
Right.
And that together we bring some economies of scale.
Sure.
So we move our business to cleaning, light, you know, whatever.
Right.
And that a strategic partner says that a big player or medium player will partner with another organization, and that in this partnership, our goal is to be able to provide some service in a way that's strategic, reaching some strategic goal, if it's spin or if it's growth or if it's building a minority business. And then the last thing, I want to talk about this kind of strategic alliances, which we talked about earlier, where we have two different companies,
Right.
and they protect their own entities or their wholly owned subsidiaries or their wholly owned companies and come together and create this new entity, bringing in the depth of knowledge or the competency or the intelligence to be able to build something, to do something, to meet the needs of a client. Again, always being customer focused and customer driven for value add. Now, if we come together for a reason to project 2025 that minority businesses have gained additional awareness and information around core competencies in capital and capacity and ability to sell and all the other things that are going to be important in 2025. I would say that it can work if we have a supplier development plan. I didn't just say minority supplier, but a supplier development plan that will have certain indicators that a corporation will need to hit, not just financial goals.
Take us through that. When you say supplier development plan, take us through what you mean.
Meaning that if a company is a $100 million company and they're the major supplier,
Mm-hmm.
and a corporation who's multi-billion or trillion-dollar company decides that they think it's socially responsible to build in communities and to provide opportunities for smaller minority firms, that in the election of we're going to partner
Right.
or align ourselves for a reason, that alliance or that partnership will ensure that the key measures are not just the delivery of service and goods to our client, but also the key measures will be what happened to the minority business that's different.
Yep.
What is, as you would say, stage Y from stage X.
Yeah.
So that measurement, we can say what happened that made you, are you more bondable now?
Right.
Do you have a technology improvement because you learned something about the CAM system or the computer system and information technology? Did you get an awareness on the financial cap rates or if understanding swaps and derivatives in a different way so that you can go out and do some things? Did you gain some ISO 9000, capacities in operation or Six Sigma? Like, what are some of the other factors to ensure that ultimately the client will have had a smarter, intelligent base? Because my belief is that if you build these minority businesses, they're more likely to hire more minorities, and having this more competency in space will build a client base. Because in my mind, if 2025 does not have minority businesses, which will be majority businesses, in meaning that we'd have the population.
Right.
If these businesses are not in a better position, that we are effectively not growing our client base, our customer base.
I get that, and now I completely understand what you mean by supplier development. And I will say this, that I think all corporations that we work with, at least, they do supplier development for all their suppliers. But the extent you just asked them to go, I'm not sure many are going to have the willingness to invest there. And it's an interesting idea. I would suggest I'm not so sure they should. And so let me take it this way.
All right.
If I'm the entrepreneur,
yes,
why is it the corporation's job to make sure I become more capable? I'm in a joint venture. I got a relationship.
Yes.
And the corporation probably influenced that happening. At least they showed interest in buying
No
diverse,
question.
and so they
No
influenced it
question.
happening. So I'm in that. Whose job is it that I get better?
No, it's your job that you get better. But I think I have my own self-interest, either social responsibility, which we can monetize depending on the community that we're in, right? If we're talking about a city that's been blighted like Detroit because of a car industry, right? Or we could be talking about a more prosperous place that, should remain nameless in this economy. Mm-hmm. That it's for social responsibility, which we can monetize, why I should want you to be better off, because my population needs jobs and growth. Yeah. But the second issue is that I believe that it will build my client base, because if my goal, for whatever reason it may be, either federal, state laws, or just is to grow my business, if it's in banking or if it's in automobile or if it's even in pharmaceuticals, my client base ultimately is more diverse anyway.
Right.
So if I can increase the diversity of the clients that I'm doing business with, those clients will also be able to build some capacity and understanding.
Sure. So you just gave me an argument why the corporation ought to care. You didn't give me the argument why the corporation ought to lead your supplier development. I think they ought to develop all their suppliers, as they do.
Right.
But as it relates to where I'm going to be as a business owner in the future, until I own that, until I own that, until I set the metrics, until I drive it, until I seek out the assistance that I need to get to where I need to get to, until I own that, we haven't gotten very far.
So it would not be out of order, though, for the corporation to inform or raise the awareness of matrix possibilities and understanding the ROI?
Not at all. And many of them already are investing heavily. It's a lot of the work that my organization does is because corporations are investing heavily in helping all of their suppliers, and at many times particularly their diverse suppliers, women and minorities. And so I'm not saying they're not doing it. I'm simply saying we're not going to get very far until the expectation and ownership shifts from the corporation and the bigger supplier to the minority supplier. Until I own it as an entrepreneur, I'm going to tell you, Farah, we're still going to struggle, because entrepreneurship is not like a job where I can pick you up and bring you to the job and make sure take you back home. And, there's too many nuances. Your favorite answer is it depends. Well, the success of an entrepreneur is all about a whole bunch of depends, right? And so there's too much stuff going on. And I'm simply saying, when it comes to supplier development, everybody could and should assist, but the ownership is with the entrepreneur. And until it is, I'll go one more step further. Until it is, we haven't gotten very far.
Yeah, I must say you're right. But how do we get to this formulation of working together? So let's go back to the ownership, or the I and the ROI. The return on the investment is with the entrepreneur.
Right.
So how do we work together for this to work?
You laid it all out. The corporation cares for the reasons that you so eloquently stated. The major suppliers care because their customer cares, and the minority supplier cares because it gives them access. We've got the pieces together. What we've got to then focus on is everyone driving to the same outcome. So the corporation is going to drive themselves to competitiveness, because that's what they do.
No question.
The major supplier is going to drive themselves to profitability and a relationship with their customer.
Always pride.
And the minority business owner must drive themselves to the same end. Everyone in that puzzle is driving themselves. And if they are, then we're all really working at the same thing.
Yeah, you've talked about this before, and it comes crystallized with me just now as we talked about supply chain and supply flow, and it sounds like you just put down the ingredients for really a supply flow when you talk about strategic partnerships and strategic value and alliances. In that, there's no reason to be doing with minority businesses this sense of joint ventures and supply chain. Strategic alliances, if there is no strategy in the flow of why this makes sense.
Absolutely.
And that flow must have some kind of trajectory that will take it upward. It must be an upward tick.
It may start with the desire for diverse, but it must grow to something else that has much more to do about profitability and market growth of your customer. If it ceases to do that, or if it doesn't do that over time, it's an investment that's not getting them return. I don't care how they articulate it and how the CEO writes the speech. This is a competitive marketplace. You've got to become a player in making me more competitive if you're going to be in my supply flow, because my supply flow is my business. I mean, isn't that what a corporation's saying?
No question. It manages their expenses, which helps them to drive their revenues and get their
We've
net
got an
income.
airline company right now that's struggling to deliver a product, and the biggest issue is supply flow. Right? The suppliers in the chain haven't got. So it's going to become more and more critical. We can't sit pat with just a diverse is enough. And I think joint ventures give us a false sense of progress that may not be real.
So how do you feel about minority companies, ethnic minority companies being the lead and having majority companies?
No different. I don't care if it's a JV. I don't care who's in the lead. The outcome is the same for me. What do I get? I'm looking for residual capabilities left over after these people did business with each other. If I don't get any, I don't like it. If I get some, I'm elated.
You know, it's one of the things that you've just talked about when you talk about getting together on these partnerships. It also demands that there must be some times when they come up for air and kind of reevaluate their partnership to determine if it's reaching the goals of all of the parties.
What partnership do you not know that doesn't do that? What good partnership, whether it's personal, marriage, whatever, or business, who doesn't reevaluate?
Right.
I mean, you don't want to be in business because it's a habit.
Right.
So I think absolutely, but the onus is on each of the individuals in that are participating and making sure that they're driving to the things that matter to them. And I think, again, we talked about it. If you're not driving, you're riding. And as an entrepreneur, don't ride.
Don't ride. And so, but we must also go back to understanding that there are some key elements that in doing these that you must have.
Yes.
And some of those key elements are, meaning you have to have a very good accountant to kind of see what the valuation of your business is and the business where you're going to engage in so that the percentages are very clear and understanding. You must have good legal counsel to talk about how we get involved with this and how we may need to get out of this for some reason. If there's malfeasance or whatever that may work out to be there. You have to have a good insurance agent to understand key man life insurance or key woman life insurance or key person life insurance on what happens, because the worst thing can happen is you and I go into business and you die and I'm left with your spouse and they have no competency in the area because then I have to do business with them. You're going to ask Reggie Lewis, unfortunately, who died, who had to deal with that issue. And also understanding your operational plan. Like there may be a company culture that may be more laid back and more innovative than a culture that's more pragmatic and just systematic in the processes that could really bring a lot of confusion and lose key employees that may help you give you the benefit that you need.
Those are all great points. Can I add a couple more?
Please.
There are three players in this. There's the customer. So I need a good customer who is committed to this because it starts out unbalanced and they got to give us time to work toward increasing capability. And so we need a good customer. We need a good joint venture partner, strategic alliance partner. And when I say good, you talked about it. What's the alignment of our culture? Are they really in it for the right reasons? Are they open? Those kind of things. And then we need a minority business owner who really is going to drive their business and make sure they're looking out for themselves. Now, that doesn't mean you be a pain in the butt, that you're not a good team member, but you got to drive your business. And then the three of us, need a good strategy. We need a way to keep score about this event. You talked about it when you talked about supplier development. How do we know this is doing more than just getting spend? What are the metrics we're going to watch in 6 months, a year, 18 months, 2 years? How do we review it? What is the review mechanism? Is it a one-pager? What is it? And I think if we can put those things together, we've got an increased opportunity to really make that difference. And joint ventures can be a wonderful tool. As a matter of fact, I got to tell you, given our marketplace now, acquisitions and joint ventures or strategic alliances, those kind of things are almost imperative because, it's like jumping on a moving train. Our economy is so complex. And so I like the tool, but we've got to do it right if we're actually going to get the stuff we say we want. And I don't know if that's what we really want, but that's what we say.
It looks like your jaundice is deteriorating. So
I'm getting better.
You're getting better.
It must be the light.
Well, stay under the light. Yeah. Stay in the light. Stay in the light. So thank you so much on this show, Mel. We had a good time talking about strategic partnerships and alliances and joint ventures as well as mergers and acquisitions, understanding that organic growth is not going to get us there.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult.
But this is going to be our opportunity to make sure that we partner right and maybe have some accountability as we move forward, either with the corporations and the clients as well as the minority business, to ensure that we have our own report card. So as we come up, we can see where the value is in doing this.
It's always my pleasure, Farad.
Hey, mine as well. Thank you for tuning into the Connectors on Planet Mogul, www.planetmogul.com.